No one wants your outdated skills, the director snapped as I resigned. What's on that drive? I told him it was the backup keys for our payment gateway. The CFO, passing by, stopped. He stared at the director and muttered, "Please tell me you're joking." The silence that followed was deafening. 3 executives stood frozen in the hallway of Sterling Financial Solutions, and I stood there with my resignation letter in one hand and a small flash drive in the other. The director's face had gone from smug satisfaction to pale confusion in less than 5 seconds. Welcome to the Payback Office channel, where workplace karma isn't just a concept, but a reality that unfolds when underestimated employees finally show their true value. This is where corporate arrogance meets its match, and today's story is one for the books. If workplace justice is something that resonates with you, hitting that subscribe button helps us keep bringing these stories your way. We're on a journey to reach 8,000 subscribers, and having you along makes all the difference. Your support keeps this community growing. My name is Amber Caldwell, and at the time of this story, I was a senior systems administrator at Sterling Financial Solutions. My background wasn't fancy or privileged, but it taught me something invaluable: how to see people for who they are, not just what they appear to be. That understanding of real struggle, real work, and real people shaped everything about how I approached my career and treated others. The morning started like any other Tuesday. I arrived at the office at 7:30, a full hour before most of the staff. The building was quiet, the fluorescent lights humming their usual monotone song. I'd been making this early morning commute for 6 years, watching Sterling Financial grow from a mid-sized regional firm to a national powerhouse. My badge beeped as I swiped into the IT department. The server room greeted me with its familiar cool air and blinking lights. These servers were my responsibility, my domain. Every transaction that Sterling processed, every payment that moved through our systems, every piece of sensitive financial data, all of it ran through the infrastructure I'd built and maintained. Coffee in hand, I settled at my desk and opened my email. 347 unread messages. Standard. About half were automated alerts, a quarter were requests from various departments, and the rest were meeting invites and company announcements. One email stood out. Subject line: Organizational Restructuring Mandatory All-Staff Meeting, 10 a.m. My stomach tightened. In corporate speak, organizational restructuring rarely meant good news. I'd seen enough of these cycles to know what was coming. New management wanted to make their mark, cut costs, bring in their own people. The pattern was as predictable as it was frustrating. At 9:45, I made my way to the main conference room. Employees clustered in small groups, whispering speculation and concern. I spotted my colleague, Thomas, from the IT department. "Any idea what this is about?" he asked. "Nothing good," I replied. The room filled quickly. At exactly 10 o'clock, 3 people walked to the front. Maxwell Hayes, our new chief operating officer who'd been with the company for only 3 months. Veronica Blackwood, the chief financial officer. And the person I'd been dreading, Damian Cross, the newly appointed director of technology. Damian had joined Sterling 6 weeks ago, brought in by Maxwell as part of the new regime. He was young, maybe 32, with an MBA from a prestigious school and exactly 2 years of technical management experience. He also had the kind of arrogance that comes from never having been truly challenged. Maxwell stepped forward, his smile sharp and practiced. "Good morning, everyone. Thank you for gathering on short notice. As you know, Sterling Financial is entering an exciting new phase of growth. To support this evolution, we're implementing some strategic changes to our operational structure." Translation: layoffs were coming. "We're bringing in cutting-edge solutions," Maxwell continued. "Cloud migration, artificial intelligence integration, automated systems that will position us at the forefront of financial technology. This means some roles will evolve, and some positions will be consolidated." Damian took over. "The IT department specifically will be undergoing significant transformation. We're partnering with Cloud Tech Innovations for a comprehensive managed services agreement. Their platform will handle most of our infrastructure needs, allowing us to operate more efficiently." My blood ran cold. managed services, outsourcing. They were gutting the IT department. We recognize this transition may affect some team members, Damien said, his tone suggesting he didn't recognize anything of the sort. Human Resources will be conducting individual meetings this week to discuss how these changes impact specific roles. The meeting continued for another 20 minutes, filled with corporate jargon and empty reassurances. When it ended, the IT staff gathered in a huddle. "They're replacing us," Thomas said flatly. "Not all of us," another colleague, Michelle, added, "just the ones they think are expendable." That afternoon, I received a calendar invite from Human Resources. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. I didn't sleep well that night. By the time I returned to the office Wednesday morning, I'd already run through every possible scenario in my mind. None of them were good. The HR meeting was conducted by Stephanie Warner, a pleasant woman with the unfortunate job of delivering bad news while maintaining corporate politeness. "Amber, thank you for coming," she began. "I'll get straight to it. With the new managed services model, your position as Senior Systems Administrator is being eliminated. Your last day will be 2 weeks from Friday." There it was. "We're offering a severance package," Stephanie continued, sliding a folder across the table. 4 weeks of pay, continuation of benefits for 60 days, and outplacement services to help with your transition. I opened the folder. Everything was already prepared, signed by Maxwell and Damien. They'd made this decision without ever speaking to me about my role, my responsibilities, or what I actually did. "Can I ask a question?" I said. "Of course." "Did anyone explain to the new management what my position actually involves?" Stephanie hesitated. The decision was made based on the new operational model. Cloud Tech will be handling infrastructure management. "Cloud Tech will be handling standard infrastructure," I corrected. "Our payment processing systems, our proprietary security protocols, our custom integration with 11 different banking networks, those aren't standard. Did anyone explain that?" "I'm sure the transition team has accounted for all technical requirements," Stephanie said, though her tone suggested she had no idea. I left the meeting with the folder under my arm and a decision crystallizing in my mind. If they wanted to eliminate my position without understanding what I did, that was their choice. But I wasn't going to spend 2 weeks training my own replacement or documenting years of specialized knowledge for people who just dismissed me as obsolete. That evening, I drafted my resignation, effective immediately. Thursday morning, I arrived at 7:30 as usual. I spent 3 hours documenting the absolute bare minimum: server locations, basic admin passwords, standard operating procedures that any competent IT professional should know. Then I began the careful process of securing my own work. The payment gateway system was my creation. 3 years ago, Sterling had wanted to bring payment processing in-house to reduce transaction fees. Every vendor they consulted quoted implementations costing between $2 and $5 million. I'd built it for a fraction of that, using open-source foundations and custom code tailored specifically to Sterling's needs. The system processed an average of $42 million in transactions daily. It interfaced with multiple banking networks, each requiring unique authentication protocols. The encryption keys, backup systems, and failover procedures existed primarily in documentation I'd created and knowledge I held. I'd always kept secure backups of critical authentication keys on an encrypted drive in my desk. Standard practice for disaster recovery. That drive was coming with me. I spent Thursday afternoon quietly removing my personal items and ensuring all my proprietary work was accounted for. The custom scripts I'd written on my own time. The documentation I'd created beyond what was required. The innovative solutions that had saved Sterling millions of dollars. Friday morning, I dressed in my best professional attire. If I was going to resign, I'd do it with dignity. At 8:30, I walked into Damien Cross's office. He was typing on his laptop, barely glancing up when I entered. "Amber," he said dismissively, "if this is about the position elimination, that decision is final. HR should have explained the severance package." I'm not here to negotiate, I replied. I'm here to resign, effective immediately. That got his attention. He looked up, confusion crossing his face. You're resigning? We're already eliminating the position. You're eliminating it in 2 weeks. I'm leaving today. This is my formal resignation letter. I placed the envelope on his desk. Damien's jaw tightened. That's extremely unprofessional. You're obligated to provide notice and assist with the transition. I'm an at-will employee in an at-will state, I said calmly. Just as you can terminate my employment without cause, I can resign without notice. The severance package became void the moment I resigned, so we're even. His face reddened. You're making a mistake. Walking out like this will reflect poorly on your professional reputation. My professional reputation is built on 6 years of exceptional performance, 0 security breaches, and infrastructure that supported Sterling's growth from regional to national. I'm comfortable with how that reflects on me. Fine, Damien snapped. Leave your badge and any company property. Frankly, no one wants your outdated skills anyway. The industry has moved beyond traditional systems administration. Cloud tech brings modern solutions, automation, real innovation. The insult hung in the air. Outdated skills. This man who'd been here 6 weeks, who didn't know the first thing about our systems, was calling my expertise outdated. Understood, I said evenly. I reached into my bag and pulled out my company laptop, placing it on his desk. Then I pulled out my personal laptop and the small encrypted flash drive. What's on that drive? Damien asked, his tone suspicious. Backup keys for our payment gateway system, I replied. The authentication credentials for our banking network interfaces, the SSL certificates for encrypted transactions, and the failover protocols. Standard disaster recovery materials. That's company property, Damien said. You need to leave it here. Actually, these are my personal backups of a system I designed and built. The company has its own backup systems in place. I'm sure your cloud tech solution has already accounted for payment processing infrastructure. Leave the drive, Damien insisted, his voice rising. Is there a problem here? Veronica Blackwood, the CFO, stood in the doorway. She was a sharp woman in her 50s, one of the few executives who'd been with Sterling since its founding. She'd always treated the IT staff with respect, understanding that technology was the backbone of a financial services company. Miss Caldwell is resigning and trying to take proprietary company data, Damien said quickly. I'm resigning effective immediately, I corrected, and I have my personal backup of the payment gateway authentication keys. I've informed Mr. Cross that the company has its own backup procedures in place. Veronica's expression shifted. The payment gateway, the system you built 3 years ago. Yes, ma'am. She turned to Damien. The payment gateway that processes all our transaction volume. We're migrating to CloudTech's managed platform, Damien said confidently. Their payment processing solution is state-of-the-art. We don't need legacy systems. Veronica's face went pale. CloudTech doesn't handle payment processing. Their managed services package covers infrastructure and cloud hosting. Payment processing wasn't part of the contract. Silence. What? Damien said. Payment processing, Veronica repeated slowly, was specifically excluded from the managed services agreement because we have a proprietary in-house system. A system that saves us approximately $18 million annually in processing fees. She looked at me. Amber, please tell me you're joking about taking the backup keys. I'm not joking, Miss Blackwood, but I want to be clear. The company has backup systems. The keys are stored in the secure documentation repository, and there are redundant failover systems in place. These are my personal copies from my own disaster recovery protocols. Can anyone else access the repository? Veronica asked. Any senior IT staff member with proper credentials, I confirmed. Damien jumped in. See? It's fine, we have redundancy. Let her take her personal copies and leave. Like I said, outdated skills aren't needed here. Veronica stared at him. Damien, how many senior IT staff members will remain after the restructuring? The color drained from his face. How many? Veronica demanded. The managed services model eliminates the need for. How many? Her voice was ice. We're retaining 2 junior technicians for on-site support. Cloud Tech handles everything else. Junior technicians, Veronica repeated, and the senior staff who understand our proprietary systems. Damien said nothing. Veronica turned back to me. Amber, I need you to be completely honest with me. If you walk out with those keys and something happens to the primary systems, can the remaining staff recover the payment gateway? I could have lied, I could have sugarcoated it, but she asked for honesty. No, ma'am. The junior technicians don't have the access level or the specialized knowledge. The system is complex, with multiple interdependencies. If the primary system fails and the backup repository is corrupted or inaccessible, you'd need someone who understands the architecture to rebuild it. That's me, Thomas Reeves, and Michelle Cortez. All 3 of us were eliminated in the restructuring. Thomas and Michelle, Veronica said, where are they? Thomas accepted a position at Pacific Trust Bank. His last day is Monday. Michelle is interviewing with 3 different companies. She'll likely have an offer within the week. Veronica closed her eyes briefly, then opened them with laser focus. Damien, leave us. Excuse me, Damien said. Get out of your office. Now, I need to speak with Amber privately. Damien stood, his face flushed with anger and embarrassment. He walked past Veronica without another word. She closed the door and turned to me. How bad is this? Honestly, it could be catastrophic. The payment gateway is stable, but it requires maintenance. Security patches, certificate renewals, protocol updates when banking partners change their authentication standards. Without someone who understands the system, the first time something breaks, you're looking at complete payment processing failure. What would that cost us? Conservatively, $42 million in daily transaction volume, frozen, regulatory penalties for processing failures. Emergency vendor contracts to restore payment capabilities, probably $5 to $7 million for rapid implementation. Reputational damage with banking partners and clients, and that's if it's resolved quickly. Veronica sat down heavily in one of the office chairs. Maxwell and Damien assured the board that the Cloud Tech migration would modernize our operations and cut costs by 30%. Cloud Tech can handle standard infrastructure, I said, but payment processing isn't standard. It's highly specialized, especially the way we've implemented it. We interface directly with banking networks using custom authentication. That's not something you can just plug into a managed service platform. Why didn't you say something when the restructuring was announced? Would anyone have listened? I'm the one with outdated skills, remember. The new management made it clear they had all the answers. I'm just the person who built and maintained the systems for 6 years. Veronica winced. That was inexcusable. Damien was out of line. He was honest, I said. That's how the new leadership sees the existing IT staff. Obsolete, replaceable, not worth consulting about the actual technical reality of our operations. What would it take to fix this? Veronica asked. Short term, cancel my resignation, restore my position, and retain enough senior IT staff to maintain critical systems. Long term, either keep payment processing in-house with proper support, or plan a careful, months-long migration to a vendor solution with full redundancy and testing. Not a flash cut to save costs. And if I asked you to stay? I'd been expecting this question, and I'd already decided my answer. Miss Blackwood, I appreciate your professionalism. You've always treated IT with respect. But the problem isn't just this one decision. It's the entire approach of the new management. They didn't consult the people who actually run the systems. They didn't assess what was truly necessary versus what could be outsourced. They made decisions based on budget spreadsheets and vendor presentations without understanding operational reality. I paused, choosing my next words carefully. If I stay, what changes? Damien is still my director. Maxwell still drives strategy. I'd be working for people who fundamentally don't value what I do. The first time there's budget pressure or a new initiative, I'd be right back here. Veronica nodded slowly. I understand. But Amber, We have $42 million in daily transactions running through a system that's about to lose its only expert support. I need to protect this company. The company should have thought about that before eliminating the people who protect it, I said. I'm sorry, Miss Blackwood, I really am, but I can't keep sacrificing my professional dignity for an organization that sees me as outdated and expendable. What if I made changes? What if Damien was removed from the IT oversight? Could you do that? He's Maxwell's hire, brought in specifically for this role. Maxwell answers to the board. The board answers to the shareholders. And I'm about to explain to both that our payment infrastructure is at critical risk because of decisions made without proper technical consultation. That tends to change reporting structures quickly. I wanted to believe her. Part of me desperately wanted to stay at Sterling. Despite everything, I'd built something here. The payment gateway was my professional achievement, the thing I was most proud of. But another part of me, the part that had been dismissed and undervalued, knew that real change was unlikely. I need time to think, I said finally. How much time? 24 hours, and I need to see concrete actions, not just promises. If the company is serious about valuing technical expertise, that needs to be demonstrated. Fair enough, Veronica said. Will you keep your phone on, in case of emergency? I hesitated. This was the leverage point. This was where I could walk away completely, let them face the consequences of their decisions. But despite my anger, I wasn't cruel. The company had thousands of employees who had nothing to do with this mess. A payment system failure would hurt them too. Yes, I said, but only for critical emergencies, and I'm not providing free consulting. If I'm helping outside of employment, my rate is $300 per hour with a 4-hour minimum. Veronica didn't even blink. Agreed, I'll have a contract drafted within the hour. I left Damien's office with my resignation letter, my laptops, and the flash drive still in my possession. The IT department was buzzing with activity when I returned to collect my personal items. Thomas approached immediately. Is it true, you resigned? Word travels fast, I said. Michelle got called into an emergency meeting with Veronica. Everyone's freaking out. What happened? I gave him the short version. His eyes widened when I got to the part about the payment gateway. They didn't account for payment processing in the cloud tech migration, Thomas said. That's insane. That's literally the most critical system we run. New management knows best, I said dryly. What are you going to do? Honestly, I don't know yet. Veronica wants me to reconsider. She has 24 hours to show me something changes. If you don't come back, Thomas said quietly, I'm not sure I want to be the last one holding this mess together. Pacific Trust is looking better every day. Don't make career decisions based on me, I told him. Do what's right for you. I finished packing my desk into a small box. 6 years of work reduced to some personal photos, a coffee mug, and a few awards that suddenly felt meaningless. My phone buzzed. Email from Veronica. Emergency executive meeting, 3 p.m. Will update you after. I drove home in a daze. My apartment felt too quiet. I made coffee I didn't drink and stared at my laptop without opening it. Around 4:30, my phone rang. Veronica. Amber, I've had a very educational afternoon, she said. I've been in meetings with Maxwell, Damien, the Cloud Tech account representative, and our legal counsel. And Cloud Tech confirmed that payment processing was explicitly out of scope for their managed services. When I asked why this wasn't flagged during contract negotiations, they said they assumed we had a separate vendor for that functionality. Damien apparently never mentioned we had an in-house system. So he didn't understand what he was eliminating, I said. Worse than that, when I asked him to explain how our payment gateway works, he couldn't. He thought it was just standard transaction processing that any platform could handle. He had no idea you'd built a custom solution with proprietary banking integrations. I wasn't surprised, but hearing it confirmed still stung. Maxwell is maintaining that the restructuring was sound, and we can contract with a payment vendor if needed, Veronica continued. I pulled vendor quotes. The cheapest implementation is $3.2 million and takes 6 months. During that time, we'd pay transaction fees that would cost us approximately $9 million compared to our current in-house costs. $12 million total to replace a system that works, I calculated. Exactly. I presented this to the board in an emergency session an hour ago. They were not pleased. I can imagine. Amber, I can't promise you everything changes overnight, but I can tell you that the board has mandated a complete review of the IT restructuring. No senior technical staff will be terminated until an independent consultant assesses our critical systems and validates the migration plan. That was something, not enough but something. Damien has been removed from IT oversight effective immediately, Veronica added. He'll be transitioning to a project management role in operations. IT will report directly to me until we hire a new CTO, and this time, the technical staff will be consulted in the hiring process. I sat up straighter. A CTO, Sterling's never had that position. The board agrees we need a C-level executive who understands technology. We've been treating IT as a cost center to be minimized instead of a strategic asset to be invested in. That needs to change. What about Maxwell? Veronica was quiet for a moment. Maxwell is on very thin ice. The board authorized the restructuring based on his recommendations. If the independent assessment shows he missed critical technical dependencies, there will be consequences. And my position? Restored if you want it. Same title, same salary, but Amber, I want to offer you something else. Would you consider the CTO role? I nearly dropped the phone. What? You built our payment infrastructure. You understand our systems better than anyone. You clearly see the strategic importance of technology to our business. The board suggested we look for external candidates with impressive resumes, but I think we need someone who actually knows Sterling's operations. I don't have an MBA, I said. I don't have executive experience. You have technical expertise and institutional knowledge. The MBA can be part of your professional development. We'd sponsor it. The executive experience you'd learn. And frankly, after watching Damien nearly destroy our payment capabilities with his Ivy League credentials and zero practical understanding, I'll take real knowledge over resume credentials any day. My mind raced. CTO, C-suite executive, strategic decision-making authority. I need more than 24 hours to think about that, I said. Take the weekend, come in Monday and we'll talk details. Salary expectations, reporting structure, team composition, strategic vision. I want your input on all of it. Okay, I said, Monday. And Amber, thank you for being honest about the payment gateway situation. You could have walked away and let us crash and burn. That kind of integrity is exactly what we need in leadership. After we hung up, I sat in silence for a long time. 24 hours ago, I was being terminated. Now I was being offered a C-level position. The weekend passed in a blur. I made lists of pros and cons, called a few trusted mentors, and did a lot of thinking about what I actually wanted from my career. Monday morning, I walked into Sterling Financial Solutions at 7:30. Veronica was already in her office. We talked for 3 hours. She wanted to know my vision for IT's role in the company, my thoughts on the cloud tech migration, my recommendations for team structure and retention. I was honest, brutally honest. I told her IT had been understaffed and under-resourced for years, that we'd been patching and improvising instead of building robust, scalable systems, that the company had gotten lucky. My payment gateway worked, but it was a single point of failure because we'd never funded proper redundancy and backup staffing. If I take the CTO role, I said, I need real authority and real budget. Not unlimited, I understand fiscal responsibility, but enough to build systems the right way. And I need the existing IT staff to be retained and properly compensated. Thomas and Michelle are exceptional. Losing them would be a mistake. Agreed, Veronica said. I've already had HR reach out to Thomas about staying. We're offering him a raise and a promotion to lead systems engineer. Michelle gets promoted to senior security analyst with a corresponding salary increase. And the junior technicians, who were going to be the only IT staff left. They'll have actual career paths now instead of being dumped into roles they weren't ready for. We're also budgeting for 2 additional senior hires in the next quarter. I leaned back in my chair. You're serious about this? The board approved an 18-month IT infrastructure investment plan this morning. $7.5 million budget for system upgrades, staff expansion, and security enhancements. This is happening, Amber. The question is whether you want to lead it. $7.5 million. For years, I'd been begging for a fraction of that to improve our systems. And now, because they'd nearly made a catastrophic mistake, the money was suddenly available. I want it, I said, but I have conditions. Name them. First, the CTO role reports directly to you, not Maxwell. I need to know that technical decisions won't be overruled by someone who doesn't understand the implications. Done, the org chart is already being revised. Second, I want a seat in strategic planning meetings, not as an observer, as a full participant. Technology needs to be part of strategy from the beginning, not brought in after decisions are made to figure out implementation. Also done, the board specifically mandated that technology leadership be included in strategic planning going forward. Third, I want protection for my team. No more arbitrary restructuring without technical consultation. If there are cost reduction initiatives, IT gets to explain the operational impact before decisions are made. I'll support that, but I can't guarantee no future restructuring. What I can guarantee is that you'll have input and authority to advocate for your department. Fair enough, that was realistic. Fourth, and this is non-negotiable, my compensation needs to reflect C-level responsibility. I don't need to be the highest paid executive, but I won't be drastically underpaid compared to other CTO positions in similar companies. Veronica slid a paper across the desk. Market analysis for CTO compensation in financial services companies of comparable size. The board authorized a salary range here. She pointed to a highlighted section. The number was nearly double my current salary. Base salary at the midpoint of that range, Veronica said. Performance bonuses tied to specific technical milestones and company performance. Full benefits package including executive perks. And we'll fund an executive MBA program if you choose to pursue it. I looked at the number again. It was more money than I'd ever imagined making. One more thing, I said. I want a formal apology from Damien for the outdated skills comment, in writing. Veronica's expression shifted to something between sympathy and satisfaction. I'll do you one better. Damien submitted his resignation this morning, effective in 2 weeks. His exit interview with HR will include a formal acknowledgement that his comments were inappropriate and his technical assessment was flawed. That documentation goes in his employment file. He resigned. Being publicly wrong about something this significant isn't great for a career, especially when the board makes it clear you're being removed from the role you were hired for. He's taking a position at a consulting firm. I felt a twinge of something, not quite sympathy, but an acknowledgement that Damien's arrogance had been his downfall. He'd come in assuming his credentials and confidence were enough, without doing the actual work of understanding what he was managing. When do you need my answer? I asked. I need to give the board a decision by end of day. If you decline, we start an external search. But Amber, I'm not just offering you this because we're desperate, though we absolutely are. I'm offering it because you've demonstrated exactly what this company needs. Technical expertise, strategic thinking, integrity, and the courage to speak truth to power even when it's uncomfortable. I thought about the flash drive in my desk drawer at home, the backup keys I'd been prepared to walk away with, the moment in Damien's office when I could have let them fail. I accept, I said, on the conditions we discussed. Veronica stood and extended her hand. Welcome to the executive team, Chief Technology Officer Caldwell. We shook hands. My career had just changed trajectory in a way I'd never anticipated. The next 2 weeks were intense. I worked with Veronica and HR to structure the IT department properly. Thomas accepted the lead systems engineer role. Michelle not only stayed, but became my right hand in assessing our security infrastructure. we brought in the independent consultant the board had mandated. His assessment was damning for the original restructuring plan. In his report, he stated that implementing the cloud tech migration without proper planning for payment processing would have been a critical failure of technical due diligence that could have resulted in severe operational and financial consequences. Maxwell's position became increasingly tenuous. In a tense executive meeting, the consultant presented his findings to the board. Maxwell tried to deflect, suggesting that unforeseen technical complexities had emerged that weren't apparent during planning. I spoke up. The complexities weren't unforeseen, they were unexamined. The IT staff could have explained the payment gateway dependencies if anyone had asked. The information wasn't hidden, it just wasn't valued. One of the board members, Arthur Samuelson, looked at Maxwell. Did you consult with IT leadership before proposing the restructuring? We consulted with Damian Cross, who was brought in specifically for his technical management expertise, Maxwell said. Damian had been here for 6 weeks, I interjected. He had no knowledge of our proprietary systems. The senior staff who built and maintained those systems were never asked for input. Arthur turned to me. If you'd been consulted, what would you have said? I would have said that managed services make sense for standardized infrastructure, but our payment processing is custom-built and requires specialized support. I would have recommended a phased approach. Migrate standard systems to cloud tech while retaining in-house expertise for proprietary systems. If we wanted to eventually move payment processing to a vendor, that would require a separate, carefully planned project with full redundancy and testing. And the cost difference. Cloud tech migration for appropriate systems, minimal disruption, reasonable cost savings. Rushed migration including payment processing, potential $12 million emergency remediation cost, not counting operational disruption and reputational damage. The room was silent. Another board member, Francine Holloway, spoke. Maxwell, you sold this restructuring as a cost-cutting measure that would save 30% on IT spending. It appears it would have cost us significantly more than we currently spend. The cloud tech proposal was sound, Maxwell insisted. If the payment gateway had been properly documented and integrated into standard protocols, the migration would have been seamless. But it wasn't, I said calmly. And that's my fault as much as anyone's. I built a system that worked but created a single point of failure because we never had the resources to build redundancy. That's what happens when IT is consistently under-resourced and then suddenly eliminated without assessment. The new IT infrastructure plan addresses this, Arthur asked. Yes, I confirmed. We're documenting all proprietary systems, cross-training staff, building redundancy, and creating clear succession plans. If I get hit by a bus tomorrow, the payment gateway won't collapse. But that takes time and investment. Francine looked at Maxwell. It seems the investment would have been wiser than the restructuring. The board meeting ended with a clear message. Maxwell's strategic judgment was in question. While he wasn't terminated immediately, it was clear his authority had been significantly diminished. Over the next several months, I settled into the CTO role. It was challenging in ways I hadn't expected. Technical problems I could solve, navigating executive politics and board dynamics was a different skill set entirely. But I had Veronica as a mentor, and I learned quickly. We successfully migrated appropriate systems to cloud tech, achieving some of the cost savings Maxwell had promised, but without the catastrophic risks. We upgraded our payment gateway with proper redundancy and backup protocols. We hired 2 excellent senior engineers and promoted from within to build a strong, resilient team. 6 months into my new role, I was in a strategic planning meeting when Maxwell presented a proposal for expanding into cryptocurrency services. The market is growing rapidly, he said. We need to offer crypto trading and custody services to remain competitive. The CEO, Gregory Walsh, looked interested. What's the implementation timeline? Maxwell glanced at his notes. We can partner with CryptoSecure platform and be operational in 3 months. Everyone looked at me. Amber technical feasibility, Gregory asked. This was the moment. the kind of moment that used to happen without me in the room. Cryptocurrency custody is extremely complex from a security and regulatory perspective, I said. We'd need to assess our current security infrastructure, implement additional controls, ensure compliance with evolving regulations, and train staff on crypto-specific risks. 3 months is aggressive. Can it be done? Maxwell pressed. Can we technically integrate with CryptoSecure in 3 months? Probably. Should we? That's a different question. We'd be taking on significant security risk and regulatory exposure without proper preparation. Gregory leaned forward. What would you recommend? A pilot program, I said. Start with a limited offering to a controlled group of clients. Use that to test our systems, train our staff, and work out operational issues before full launch. Timeline: 6 months to pilot, evaluate results, then decide on full implementation. That's too slow, Maxwell objected. Our competitors are already offering these services. Our competitors also have larger IT budgets and more mature security infrastructures, I countered. We're still building ours. Rushing into cryptocurrency without proper preparation is exactly the kind of decision that creates catastrophic risk. Francine, the board member who'd questioned Maxwell before, spoke up via video conference. I agree with Amber. We just narrowly avoided a major technology failure. Let's not rush into another high-risk area without proper planning. Gregory nodded. Pilot program it is. Amber, work with Maxwell on the implementation plan. I want regular updates. After the meeting, Maxwell cornered me in the hallway. You undermined my proposal in there, he said tersely. I gave my technical assessment, I replied. That's my job as CTO. Your job is to enable business initiatives, not block them. My job is to ensure we pursue business initiatives safely and sustainably. There's a difference between being an obstacle and being a safeguard. Maxwell's jaw tightened. I brought you into this role because we needed technical expertise. Don't forget that. Actually, Veronica brought me into this role. The board approved it. And the reason they did was specifically because we need someone willing to speak up when technical reality doesn't match business ambition. That's what I'm going to keep doing. I walked away before he could respond. My heart was pounding. Confronting a senior executive still felt risky, but I meant what I said. The cryptocurrency pilot program launched 4 months later. We started with 50 high-net-worth clients who wanted crypto custody services. The pilot immediately revealed issues: customer confusion about wallet security, unclear regulatory requirements for reporting, and integration challenges with our existing account management systems. If we'd rushed into a full launch, those issues would have affected thousands of clients and generated significant compliance risk. Instead, we worked through them methodically, refined our processes, and built a solid foundation. 8 months after the pilot started, we rolled out full cryptocurrency services. The launch was smooth, well-received by clients, and positioned Sterling as a thoughtful player in the crypto space rather than a reckless one. Gregory publicly credited the phased approach for the success. Maxwell said nothing. A year into my CTO role, I was invited to speak at a financial services technology conference. The topic: building resilient technology infrastructure in mid-sized financial firms. I told a version of my story. Not the petty details or the personal conflicts, but the strategic lessons. The importance of understanding your existing systems before replacing them, the value of consulting with the people who actually run your technology, the difference between cost-cutting and value optimization. After the presentation, several people approached me with similar stories. CTOs and senior IT leaders who'd watched companies make disastrous technology decisions because executives didn't understand or value technical expertise. One woman, the CTO of a regional investment firm, said, "I'm dealing with exactly this right now. New COO wants to outsource everything to save money. How do I make them understand what we'll lose?" Document everything, I told her. Not just what your systems do, but what they enable. Translate technical capabilities into business outcomes. And if they still won't listen, make sure there's a paper trail showing you raised the concerns. Sometimes people only learn through consequences. She nodded grimly. That's what I'm afraid of. I gave her my card. If you need someone to talk to or want to think through strategy, reach out. Those of us fighting this fight should support each other. The connections I made at that conference became invaluable. I joined a CTO peer group, monthly calls with technology leaders from similar companies. We shared challenges, solutions, and support. Meanwhile, at Sterling, Maxwell's position continued to erode. The cryptocurrency launch success was credited to cross-functional collaboration and careful planning, implicitly a rebuke to his push-it-through-fast approach. Other initiatives he championed ran into similar issues. Good ideas poorly executed because he prioritized speed over thoroughness. 18 months after I became CTO, Gregory called me into his office. Amber, I wanted you to hear this from me first. Maxwell is leaving Sterling. He's accepted a position at another company. I kept my expression neutral. I appreciate you letting me know. The board and I have been discussing organizational structure, Gregory continued. We're not replacing the COO position. Instead, we're elevating the functional leads, CFO, CTO, Chief Revenue Officer, to report directly to me with expanded strategic authority. That's a significant change, I said. It's the right change. The COO layer made sense when Sterling was smaller, but we've grown. We need our functional experts driving strategy in their domains, not filtered through a generalist executive who doesn't have deep expertise in any of them. He paused. I also want to acknowledge that we made mistakes with the IT restructuring. Serious mistakes that could have severely damaged this company. You saved us from that, and you've built something impressive over the past year and a half. The board and I are grateful. Thank you, I said. I appreciate that. How are you feeling about the role? I know it's been a steep learning curve. It has been, I admitted. But I love it. There are days I miss hands-on technical work, but being able to shape technology strategy for the entire company is incredibly rewarding. Good, because I want you to take on an additional responsibility. We're exploring a potential acquisition of a smaller financial services firm, Redwood Financial Group. They have strong client relationships, but weak technology infrastructure. I want you to lead the technical due diligence and integration planning. My first acquisition, another step into true executive leadership. I'd be honored, I said. The Redwood acquisition took 6 months to complete. Their technology was indeed weak, outdated systems, poor security practices, minimal documentation. But their client base was valuable, and their leadership was willing to invest in improvements. I worked closely with their small IT team, treating them the way I wished I'd been treated during Sterling's restructuring. We assessed their systems together, identified what could be salvaged and what needed replacement, and built an integration plan that respected their knowledge while bringing them into Sterling's more robust infrastructure. The Redwood IT director, a woman named Olivia Chen, wait, I need to avoid that last name. Let me revise. The Redwood IT director, a woman named Olivia Martinez, pulled me aside during one of our planning sessions. Thank you for not coming in here like we're idiots, she said. The last acquisition I was part of, the acquiring company treated us like incompetent children. They ignored everything we said and forced through their systems without understanding our operations. It was a disaster. I've been on the receiving end of that approach, I told her. It's not effective and it's not respectful. You know your systems and your clients. I know Sterling's infrastructure. We figure this out together. The integration was successful enough that Gregory asked me to document the approach as a template for future acquisitions. 2 years into my CTO role, Thomas approached me with news. I got an offer, he said. CTO position at a smaller firm. It's a step up, more authority, good salary. My heart sank. Thomas was invaluable, but I was also proud of him. You should take it, I said. He looked surprised. Really? Really? You're ready for that role. You've been essentially operating at that level here already. I'll hate losing you, but I'm not going to hold you back from a career opportunity. I feel like I'm abandoning you, Thomas said. You're not. You're growing your career. That's what's supposed to happen. And honestly, the fact that Sterling's IT department is now a place where people develop into CTO-level leaders is a success metric I'm proud of. We threw Thomas a going-away party. In my toast, I told the team, Thomas leaving for a CTO role isn't a loss for us. It's proof that we're building something special. We develop leaders here. That's the culture we're creating. Michelle was promoted to Thomas's role. We hired 2 new senior engineers. The team stayed strong. 3 years into my CTO tenure, I was invited to join Sterling's board of directors. Not as an executive reporting to the board, but as an actual board member with voting authority. We need technology expertise at the governance level, Francine explained. The world has changed. Technology isn't just infrastructure anymore, it's core to everything we do. We need that perspective in our highest level decision-making. I accepted. At 38 years old, I was on the board of directors of a national financial services firm. During my first board meeting as a member, we discussed a significant technology investment proposal. The new CRO Chief Revenue Officer wanted to implement an AI-powered client analytics platform. It's cutting-edge technology, he said. Our competitors are using AI, we need to keep pace. The other board members looked interested, but uncertain. Amber, your assessment? Arthur asked. I'd reviewed the proposal thoroughly. AI analytics can be powerful, but this particular platform has some concerns. The vendor's data security practices aren't fully transparent, which is problematic for a financial services firm handling sensitive client information. And the implementation timeline assumes our data infrastructure is more mature than it actually is. So you're recommending against it? The CRO asked, frustrated. I'm recommending we select a different vendor with better security practices and adjust the timeline to account for necessary data infrastructure improvements first. There are 3 alternative platforms that would meet our needs with less risk. That will delay implementation by 6 months, the CRO objected. It will delay full implementation, I corrected. We can start the data infrastructure work immediately, which we need anyway. Then we'll be in a much stronger position to implement AI analytics successfully. The board approved my recommendation. After the meeting, Arthur approached me. 3 years ago we nearly made a catastrophic mistake because we didn't have technical expertise in leadership. I think about that often. I think about it too, I said. We're fortunate you stayed, Arthur said. A lot of people would have walked away and let us face the consequences. I considered it, I admitted. But ultimately, this is my company too. I'd built things here. I wasn't ready to let it all collapse out of spite. That integrity is why you're on this board, Arthur said. Don't ever lose it. Now, 5 years after that Friday morning when I walked into Damien's office to resign, I'm still at Sterling Financial Solutions. The company has grown significantly. Our technology infrastructure is robust, secure, and genuinely innovative. The IT department is respected as a strategic partner, not a cost center. Damien is working for a mid-sized consulting firm. From what I've heard through industry connections, he's competent in his current role but hasn't advanced to executive leadership. The lesson about arrogance apparently stuck. Maxwell moved to 3 different companies in 5 years, each stint ending in less than ideal circumstances. Rushing strategies without proper planning is a pattern that catches up with you eventually. Veronica retired last year. At her retirement party, she pulled me aside. I'm proud of a lot of things from my career, she said, but I think convincing you to stay and promoting you to CTO might be the most important decision I made for this company. You took a big risk on me, I said. It wasn't a risk, it was recognizing value that others had missed. That's not risk, that's just paying attention. If you've stayed with this story all the way to the end, thank you. Workplace justice isn't always immediate, and it doesn't always look like dramatic confrontation. Sometimes it's about standing firm in your value, speaking truth even when it's uncomfortable, and being willing to walk away from situations that don't respect your worth. If this resonated with you, subscribing helps us keep sharing these stories. We're building a community of people who believe competence and integrity matter, and your support makes that possible. Until next time, remember, your skills aren't outdated just because someone doesn't understand them. Your value doesn't decrease because someone fails to see it. Stand firm, speak up, and never let anyone convince you that expertise doesn't matter.